Hi, I'm Ben,
And I'm Lucas.
and we are two aspiring filmmakers making unnecessary commentary on famous movies.
Each week, we will randomly select a film to analyze, discuss, and review.
We will select the film at the end of each podcast, so you will have ample time to watch the movie before the next episode.
We are slightly qualified film students.
Hello.
Hello, welcome back to another episode of Slightly Qualified Film Students. This
Yep,
week,
we're coming
coming in
in
with
today.
Big Fish.
Tim Burton film, Big Fish.
Yeah,
Ewan McGregor. Second Ewan McGregor film we've done. We did Train Spotting.
yeah. And the late, great Albert Finney also.
Yes.
And yeah, I had never seen this film before. It had been like on my watch list for a few years, honestly. Probably like 2 years. Never got around to watching it. I'm glad I watched this, man. It was an experience. It was crazy. Wild. I had no idea what I was getting into.
It's a really fun film, honestly.
Yeah, for sure. It's whimsical. It's like I think Tim Burton referred to it as a gothic southern film, because all the other Tim Burton films are very gothic. They're very like
Yes, very.
bland and drab of color, and darker themed. And this is like full of color and just craziness.
Full of color. Yeah, I think it's one of Tim Burton's film that feels more rooted in reality. Like, I get that there's a lot of fantasy elements to this film, but also the fantasy elements are kind of
Explained.
helmed with reality, because it's about this man telling stories and telling, fabrications of stories. And so, yeah, it's not like The Nightmare Before Christmas or Frankenweenie or Edward Scissorhands or any of Tim Burton's other films. It feels real with just this like fantasy element within it. And I like that. I think this is why I respond more to this film. I wouldn't say I'm very well versed in Tim Burton films. I've seen a few of his films, but this is one that has stood out to me over the years. And it's one, I don't know, that just like affects me more than his other films, because I think it's more relatable. The characters are more relatable, and you're able to just like, I don't know, experience it.
Yeah, I would say it's definitely so far my favorite Tim Burton film. I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of, like, I wouldn't even call them horror films necessarily. Like, I feel like gothic is the perfect word. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I've seen Edward Scissorhands. It's just, like, not really my thing. They're just kind of, like, depressing and very dreary.
Yeah.
Experiences, but this was crazy. I don't even know how to describe this. This is like a sad, like, coming of age father son reconciliation journey, but also this crazy fantastic journey of that's kind of like blending reality. Like, you don't really know what actually happened and what didn't.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So, I guess I'll pull up a plot summary real quick. Case
yeah, let's do
you
it.
haven't seen it. I know it's very hard to stream. Will Bloom returns home to care for his dying father, who has a penchant for telling unbelievable stories. After he passes away, Will tries to find out if his tales were really true.
Clearly someone didn't watch the movie who wrote this plot summary, because Edward Bloom does not pass away until literally the last, like, 5 minutes of the film.
Yeah. I don't know why you would reveal that in the plot summary. I think you could have ended it vague after 2 sentences. To care for his dying father, who has a penchant for telling unbelievable stories. Boom. That's all you need to know.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You don't need to keep going on. This is like the Eternal Sunshine one last time. So, yeah. I guess let's do standout scenes. Let's just jump right into it and do some standout scenes.
I'm going to be pretty basic with mine, because it was really the scene, the moment that stood out to me the most. And it is the ending, where he's dying in the hospital, and he asks his son to tell him the story of his death, kind of to make him feel better, I guess. And then, it intercuts between the hospital and the actual story he's telling, which is him being carried down to the river and all the people from all his adventures are there. I cried
Yeah.
heftily.
I
It's so sad.
definitely cried the first time I watched that scene. It's sad, man, but it's also beautiful, and
It's
it's
really
like
awesome. It's
it's
an awesome
this
moment.
perfect reconciliation with Will and his father, because he's finally just telling him the story, and he's just coming to his dad's aid. He knows his dad's gonna die, and he's just being there with him. And I mean, dude, also the score in that scene is just breathtaking.
Yeah, and it really feels like the moment where Will Bloom kind of,
Mm-hmm.
I guess, understands like the purpose of the stories.
Yeah.
Or like kind of
Yeah.
comes to terms with it, and he's like, okay, I just. It
Yeah.
feels like their relationship is mended, and in a way, it's a happy ending. Even though he's dying, you see them become kind of close again.
Yeah.
Even though they were like estranged for so long.
And also how he continues to tell these stories to his son, and then he says at the end, it's like through these stories he becomes immortal. So it's like even though he did die, it's like he lives on through his stories.
Exactly.
And yeah, it's a really smart ending. Yeah, I mean that's definitely my striking standout scene too, but I think what's another scene? I
Well,
actually
I was
just
gonna
really
go
like
with the daffodils as a backup.
I mean, yeah, that's a pretty great scene. But honestly, I'm gonna choose the scene where he first sees Sandra at the circus. I just really like
Yeah.
that. It's a really
Mhm.
cool sequence. Him walking through everyone and like who's paused. Life has stopped moving.
Yeah,
He's walking
that's really
through.
cool.
He walks. He like pushes through the popcorn. I don't know. It's a really cool sequence, and then I really like the scene that takes place afterwards with him and Danny DeVito, and then I just like that whole sequence afterwards where he's just working to get information about this girl.
Yeah,
It's really
it's
fun.
totally ridiculous.
Yeah, and it's amazing. Yeah, I this is one of those few films that I really love the second act. Usually the second act of films are pretty slow.
But this
And,
is the exception, bro. The
dude,
second act in
the
this
second
film is the
act of this
crazy
film
part.
it's packed. There's so much stuff that happens in the second act of this film. I love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. We got quite a few questions, so let's
Yeah,
hop into
I was
some
expecting
audience
that.
questions.
I was expecting that. Okay.
Okay, let's pull them up. First question we have. Why do you think Edward tells stories? Is it because he wants to make his life sound more interesting than it is? What other purposes might his stories serve?
Well, I think that it almost like depends on the story, because some stories he tells, like the kind of almost like the main story about him catching the fish with his ring on the day Will was born, is almost as like an excuse as to why he wasn't there for
Yeah.
his son's birth, because he was a week early and he didn't expect it.
Mhm.
And I think it's definitely not necessarily to make his life seem more interesting. I don't think he tells the stories to make him seem like a cooler person or whatever. I almost think it's like Will says at the end, it's to kind of just, that's what he's doing on the earth to like leave behind for him to be remembered, is through these crazy stories that he tells.
Yeah.
He knows that he'll be passed down to his kids and his grandkids and stuff like that.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I think another part of it is like we see at the end of the film that he wasn't completely lying in the
Oh, yeah.
stories. I mean, he was fabricating them, he was exaggerating, he was making them more interesting, but they were still based off of some portion of reality. For example, the giant, instead of being a giant, it's like a 7-foot tall guy. He's still really tall, but he's not, he's not a giant. And
Yeah.
I think he's trying to spice up his stories. He's trying to just create this world for himself that his son can love and that his son can just appreciate. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. There are definitely like ethical gray areas within this. It's like, I don't know, the whole Santa Claus dilemma or whatever. It's kind of like that, but either way, it's kind of beautiful at the same time.
And it was one of my favorite things about this film is like as I was watching it, I could almost like figure out like, okay, I can see that this is obviously a crazy exaggeration, but you could also tell like what his actual life experiences are, even before the ending. Like, okay, he probably met the girl at a circus or at Auburn or whatever. He didn't literally have to like work for no money, but maybe he, like you can just kind of like root. Like if you take away all the exaggeration, you can see, okay, so he went to the military, and she thought he died, and he didn't necessarily go on a crazy parachute raid. But if you you can kind of, as you're watching, strip away the exaggeration and figure out what his actual life was like, which is just
totally. Okay, next question we have. Big Fish shows the father-son relationship. What is one of your favorite or iconic father characters in film?
Favorite father characters in film, hey? Man, there's a lot. You could even go with something like Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker, bro.
I mean, that's pretty iconic. I don't know if he's my favorite father, though.
Yeah, no. Favorite father? I mean, it's like a tough question, because if we're just going like father figure, you could argue something like Good Will Hunting, like Robin Williams and Matt Damon. Like,
sure.
Or if we're talking like literal father, yeah. I guess for me, my favorite movie is The Life Aquatic, so I'm gonna go with Zissou and Ned Plimpton. Legendary, iconic duo. Great father-son.
Okay.
It's like the whole focus of the film.
I mean,
kind of similar to this. Yeah. I'll go with that.
I mean, I think the one that stands out to me is the father in Call Me by Your Name. I mean, I think
true.
He is like such a good dad. I mean, when I watched Call Me by Your Name, it was like that just stood out to me as he's like so supportive and just understanding, and obviously his final monologue in that movie just makes me cry every time. I mean, he is a great father.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Or like, Mufasa.
Hell yeah, Mufasa, underrated.
Underrated
God,
father.
The
Mufasa.
live-action remake of The Lion King. Why?
No. Let's not talk about that.
They make so much money, though.
Yeah, that's true. People just gotta stop going to see. Everyone goes and watches them, though, and that's the problem. And then everyone complains. Like, everyone went to see The Lion King, and then everyone complained about it. Like, just don't watch it, or wait till you can pirate it. So then you don't give them the satisfaction,
True.
Okay, final question we have. If you could know when and how you are going to die, would you want to?
I think probably not. I feel like that'd just be too much weight on your shoulders for the rest of your life. Like, especially if you knew when. Like, if you knew how, like, cancer or a heart attack or something, you can still be like, okay, I know how. But, like, if you know when you're gonna die, like, that's just too much stress. It's like living your whole life on a timer. You just gotta...
That's true.
I don't know. It's a hard question.
Also,
like,
I kind of like what Edward Bloom's character in Big Fish does, though. It's like, yeah, he knows how he's gonna die, but he also knows that he's not gonna die any other way. So he can go to war, and he's not scared, and he's gonna take the most risky challenges at war to get, home quicker, and he's fine because he knows he's not gonna die. And I think that's kind of interesting too. I mean, obviously it would be stressful, but if like someone told me you're not going to die till you're like 90, it's like, well, then I
Yeah, but
have,
what
you
if they
know,
told you that you're gonna die when you're 20?
well, then you're like, oh shoot, I better live my life, and then you're just freaking out when you're
True.
20.
True.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know.
It's weird. It's a
It
weird
is weird.
question. It's a weird dilemma. It's also really weird that they threw that into this film. Like, this film wasn't already crazy enough. But
I kinda
now
like
also
it,
there's
though.
a witch that can... Oh, yeah, I like
Yeah.
it too. I'm just saying it's like another crazy element to the story.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks for sending in questions, everyone.
Yeah.
We always love answering questions, so keep sending them in. It's our favorite part. And yeah, let's take a quick break, and then we're gonna hop into the actual review. Okay, we are back.
We are back for the
heading
review.
into story and originality out of 10. So
This is
this
a crazy story.
It is. It's a very crazy story. It's based off a book. Big Fish is based off a book, and
Yeah.
funny enough, I have read the book.
Really?
Yes,
That's a first.
it is a first. I have.
Not you reading books,
Well,
but...
I mean, yeah.
Uh,
I used to read a lot of books when I was younger. I haven't read in a very long
True.
time, but I used to read a lot of books when I was younger, and Big Fish was one of those books.
I read a few books a year, I'd say.
Big Fish I read after I watched the movie because I don't know. I was trying to find a book to read when I was like really
Yeah.
young. Anyway,
Is it similar?
it's no, it's very different. The book is a lot more focused on the like Ed Bloom stories. It's not as much about the father-son relationship. The book is more focused on the actual like his story,
Details of
the
his
fantasy
crazy
part.
journey.
Yeah, exactly. And he changed it a lot. Tim Burton like really changed this film. There's still definitely moments and glimpses. The actual story about him catching the fish is like in the book, but the film itself is very different. And I mean, this is a really cool film, very original. I mean, it's just a really cool fantasy film, with a twist, and it just feels really fresh and original, and I like that.
Yeah, it definitely does. And I really like that. I mean, obviously credit because the book kind of came up with the idea. But I love this idea of telling the story of the father-son relationship through the crazy, exciting stories that are going to make an audience excited to watch the film.
Yeah.
It's almost like Nocturnal Animals in a way.
Yes, sort of.
That you're watching fictional events
Mhm.
that are very closely related to the real story that
Yeah.
is taking place.
Yes. I didn't think about that.
Except
Yeah,
I
but
would
yeah.
say that Nocturnal Animals is more pulled out. Like, Nocturnal Animals is way more about
It's way
the
more
book.
fictional. Yeah. Yeah, it is more about
Yeah.
the book, and it's also way more fictional. And like way darker. But
Yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I think the story
I really like this story.
Yeah, it's a cool story, and even like as original as the fantasy element of this film is, I really love the father-son story within this film. I really like him trying to figure out who his father is. I really like how
Because
he
he
kind
feels
of
like he...
yeah.
Yeah.
I like how he kind of like finds out over time, oh, his dad actually was in the war. That stuff actually happened. He goes and meets with Helena Bonham Carter, Carter's character, and is like, oh, were you guys having an affair? And I like this like mystery element to it, that he's just trying to figure out who his dad is, but also the fact that he's not realizing that he could just be doing what he does.
already knows.
Yeah, he knows who his dad is, and he could be doing what he does at the end in the hospital with him for these last few weeks instead of trying to, figure out who he actually is, because who cares? Like, this is your dad, and I really like that. I think it's a really interesting story to add in,
Yeah, for
especially
sure.
the fact that stuff isn't really in the book, so Tim Burton really like made that his own by doing that. Yeah, I give story and origin.
And it was more closely related to Tim Burton because...
Yeah.
Well, both of Tim Burton's parents actually passed away pretty much right before the making of this film. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's originally Steven Spielberg was supposed to direct this.
I was gonna say
John
it
August
kind of
adapted
feels.
it.
It feels almost more like a Steven Spielberg film than a Tim Burton film.
I know.
I was gonna say that because
Luckily, though, Spielberg directed Catch Me If You Can, which is also
amazing film.
great.
Yeah.
So
I gave
we
story
got
and
two great
originality
films.
a 9. I gave it a 9 out of 10.
Yeah, same here. I also gave it a 9. It's crazy and it's over the top, but that's kind of the whole point.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really great story, very complex, and it's heartwarming and sad.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's move on to
Beginning.
which is out of 5%. I really like that they open with one of the stories. And I also think it's a very, like, creative way of just right away, like, kind of speed running through Will's life.
Yeah.
Because this
Yeah.
obviously shows why Will is so fed up with hearing the story, because it's almost like Edward is retelling it at every pivotal moment of Will's life.
Yeah, sure.
His dad is telling the same story. Yeah. So I like that it gets into it quickly in one of the longest opening credits rollouts I think I've ever seen. It was like 7 minutes in, and I see directed by Tim Burton. I'm like, what? It's still going? Okay.
Yeah.
And it is narration, but there's some cool transitions. There's some cool edits.
Yeah.
And cinematography is pretty solid, so I don't think it's the worst beginning, and I think it sets up the film pretty solid. It's not the best, but I like this beginning.
Yeah, it's pretty decent. I mean, I like how it sets up the relationship between Ed and Will, especially like their argument at his wedding and stuff. I don't know. I guess after seeing this film like 4 times, it's like I guess I kind of feel like Will sometimes. Like the story kind of gets old. Like I know the story, and I kind of just want the film to get into it. So I don't know. I was a little bored, like just when this film started. But I do like the fact that it's quick and we get into it like really quickly. It's like, yeah. But I don't know.
Honestly, though,
yeah.
like I'm gonna kind of get into what probably my biggest issue with the whole film right here, and that's that I really don't like Billy Crudup's performance as Will Bloom. I think it gets good at the end, but I think in the beginning his performance is honestly kind of weak.
It's pretty stereotypical. It's very like
it feels very cliche.
Yeah, he's the angry guy who's just like not accepting of anything. And it is kind of cliche.
I don't know.
I think he gives a fantastic performance in his last scene when he's telling the story.
For sure.
But yeah, I do agree with you. It's not the most brilliant performance.
Like I think right off the bat, I was just kind of... It almost brought my expectations down right in that first argument scene between the dad, between Edward and Will. I was like, ooh, uh-oh. Like, is this guy gonna suck? Like, is this gonna ruin it for me? But then, over time, he gets into it, and you learn more about his character, and he has more to work with, and it gets better. But it's like a little red flag for me. But overall, very good setup. Nothing too special about it.
Yeah.
What'd you give it?
I gave it a 3%.
Yeah, same.
Right in the middle.
3 out of 5. Yeah, I think it's
Nothing-
pretty average, honestly.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to ending. Ending out of 5.
Ending.
I mean, you already kind of talked about.
I
the
love
ending.
this ending.
It's
I
a
love
pretty
this
beautiful ending. I mean,
Yeah. Not my favorite of all time, but I mean, I was crying just as much as I have to all the other films on this list. Man, and it was like a continuous cry, too. Like, I was crying in the hospital all the way to the actual end at the funeral.
And it's kind of smart how it does this. Like, we were talking about this with Where the Wild Things Are, where it's like you have a moment of sadness and then it gets interrupted, and then you're kind of just like, oh. Where this film, it's like it carries it through to the very end. It has this like home run last 10 minutes where it's going to carry through the sadness, and it doesn't interrupt you, and it doesn't like do anything just like out of...
Yeah.
it's gonna carry it, and it's gonna take this beautiful storytelling ending and then this beautiful, like, I don't know, just nice conclusion that wraps it up.
I really like. I at first when I was, because this is my first time watching it, as soon as he said, I forget the exact line, but he basically says, like, that's a perfect ending or something, and he dies.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, wait, why didn't they end it there? But then I was hyped because they have, like, the storytelling funeral, which is actually pretty similar to the real funeral.
Yeah.
And then you have these, like, Will is looking around and he's seeing all the characters, and he's seeing that they're exaggerated a bit, like the twins aren't conjoined, and the giant's not actually huge, but he's, like, realizing all this stuff that his dad really wasn't making that much of it up.
He was just twisting it to make it more entertaining.
That was just the saddest. That was the saddest part.
Yeah.
It wasn't even the death. It was, like, Will's realization that this whole time, his whole life, he was chasing, like, I need to know the real him.
Yeah.
When in reality, like, he knew him all along. And I was like, damn.
It's pretty good. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. This ending carried the film for me, honestly.
Yeah.
Like I would rewatch this. I was kind of like, it wasn't, like, my favorite one we've watched so far. I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah.
But this ending, man, good ending. I would rewatch it just so I can get the payoff.
That's what I was like when I was going in to rewatch this film. The thing I was most excited for was the ending. Like, that was what I was most excited for when I was rewatching this film. And yeah, it's a great ending. What'd you give it?
5 out of 5 for me.
Gave it the 5 out of 5. I gave it a 4 out of 5. And I think that's only because maybe it's not as crazy to me now that I've seen it so many times. Also, I don't know. It's just
I didn't even read. I mean, I read the plot summary last week, but I didn't necessarily know he was even gonna die.
Right.
So I was totally, like, moved.
Yeah. I mean, I think the other thing is just, I don't know. It's a little too on the nose for me. I like a little bit.
It is very on the nose,
and I it's voiceover. You know, I still love the ending. It's a very high.
Yeah,
4.
like the last 20 seconds weren't my favorite.
Yeah,
where he's telling.
Yeah,
where his narration.
It's a very high 4 for me, but I get the 5 out of 5. I was contemplating it. So let's move into screenplay and dialogue out of 8.
I think that I really love the way that this screenplay is able to mix the two storylines. I think that I like that they heavily focus on the fictional one, but I don't know. I think they use, like, a bit too much narration, maybe.
Yeah.
It just feels like a bit much sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, at first, when he's first, like, setting the stage for what you're watching, like, it seems okay, but I don't know. Sometimes in the middle of one of his fantasy arcs, he'll be explaining what he's doing. Or, like, telling a funny joke that isn't actually that funny. There's a lot of jokes that did not land with me at all in this film.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. There are some jokes that feel like they're directed to, like, 12-year-olds. Like Danny DeVito dog scratching himself.
Yeah, totally.
I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's some corny lines too. There's some cliche moments.
Yeah.
But I think that's what's bringing it up for me is just overall, I really like the structure of it. I like the pacing. But just the narration and it's kind of cliche. Like, I don't know. It just, I feel like they could have done better with the dialogue.
I think the clichéness, though, it's okay for me because it's an old man telling these stories and he's obviously exaggerating it.
Yeah.
So, like, it's like if my grandpa was going to tell me a story, it would probably be pretty cliche also. So I kind of get that.
I'm honestly more talking about just what's even happening in the real relationship. Like, the characters just feel like such caricatures.
That makes sense.
I don't know. And I kind of get that it's supposed to be, like, awkward, but I don't know.
I mean, my biggest thing is I feel sometimes it's a little disoriented. Like, there's some scenes I get that it's his story, but sometimes I'm just like, why is that there? Like, the biggest one for me is Danny DeVito being, like, a dog. Like, what?
Yeah.
Why? I didn't even remember.
Like, literally, why was that even there?
I didn't even remember that happened. I was like, oh, like, he, like, the dog comes out, and I was like, oh, yeah, I kind of remember this. And then he walks out of the river, like, the next day, and I'm like, wait, was he the dog? Wait, Danny DeVito's the dog?
I guess what the purpose is, I guess the purpose is that because Will, like, peacefully, like, chilled him out as a werewolf by throwing him a stick.
Yeah.
He was, like, thankful, so he told her name and where she was.
Yeah.
I guess.
I feel like
don't
there
know.
was a better way to
It's
go.
really
about
weird.
That. It was
It's
very
really
weird.
weird.
Like, I was weirded out, and I've seen this film so many times, and I totally, like, blocked that out of my
Because it
memory.
didn't even look like a werewolf.
No, it
was
wasn't
like
a werewolf.
dog.
It was a dog.
At first, I thought there was a rabid dog
Yeah.
in his
I
cabin.
thought it was like Danny DeVito's dog. I was like,
killing
oh.
Danny DeVito.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I was like, wait, what? Danny DeVito's
Is the
naked
dog.
and
Oh my god. Yeah.
carrying the stick? I was
Yep.
like, what the...
Yeah, I mean, it's a good screenplay. I think it's really well designed, and it's, like you were saying, it's just organized really well. But yeah, I feel
Yeah.
like it could have used a bit more work. I gave it a 6 out of 8, though.
Yeah, I gave it a 5%. I guess, I don't know. I was a little more unimpressed with just some of the cliche. And honestly, there were a lot of jokes that I felt like were being directed at me that I just really didn't think were funny at all. And sometimes they were, like, very blatant too, like the whole they speak French in the Congo joke, and he's, like, telling it to the French person who's been there, and then he's like, oh, so you know. I was just, like, cringing so much.
Yeah,
at
but
that.
I don't think that was meant to be funny. I think that, like, that to me is literally just an old man. Like, that's what my grandpa would do at a family gathering.
Yeah, true.
Like, I'm like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
This is totally something an old guy would say. But yeah.
5%.
Okay.
We're evened ourselves out, heading into soundtrack, which is at 7%.
Out of 7.
This is only Academy Award nomination
For
was for
soundtrack,
the score.
it's a
by
really
Danny
beautiful
Elfman.
score. It's a really
It is a
beautiful
really
score.
beautiful.
And it takes up a lot of the film. And it also
Mhm.
has really great song selections. There are some great songs in this film.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I like that they have a beautiful score, but they also pick songs to match whatever's happening. Like in the dance, when they're all dancing in Spectre, got that, like, old-fashioned jig type music.
Yeah.
And there's a really great mix between score and soundtrack. It's definitely heavier on the score side, but they come in here with some clutch song selection too. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. The final score carries it for me because I just love that final score. And it's a
Yeah,
long piece. It's like
beautiful.
a 9-minute piece that just, like, takes up from the time Will starts telling the story to the very end, and it takes it all in. And it just it really adds to how great that ending is. Yeah, it's a really beautiful score. It feels epic, but also not too epic. It's kind of like Shape of Water for me. It's like it feels contained, but it's also, like, awesome at the same time.
Totally. I would say this is probably one of my favorite scores we've done so far. I mean, it's literally just the ending, man. Like, that scene is enhanced so much with the music. But it's subtle enough that if you took it away, it would have the same meaning. But I mean, it just amplifies it. And I really like Danny Elfman. Danny Elfman he's pretty much worked on every Tim Burton movie.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I like him. He's got good personality. He's just a great composer. So
Yeah.
I gave it a 6%. I really like the music in this a lot.
Yeah, same. 6 out of 7. It's a
Mhm.
great score. It's a fantastic score. Yeah, let's move in production design, costumes and set, out of 6.
Man, this is pretty much, I think it's in our top 3 for biggest budget films yet.
Yeah.
And I mean, it really shows through the production design.
Production design
There's
is
some
crazy.
crazy sets.
Yeah.
There's some crazy sets. in this.
Crazy.
I mean, the whole town of Spectre was built. And
Yeah.
it's still there today. You can go, like, visit
That's
the set.
sick. Dude, Spectre is... I think that's, like, my other favorite part of this film. I just love Spectre. It's so cool.
Mm-hmm. I love Steve Buscemi. Steve Buscemi is a god in
Love
my
Steve
eyes.
Buscemi.
Steve Buscemi has been in, like, he's never been in a bad movie as far as I'm concerned. Maybe I'll regret that statement.
What a legend.
What a legend. I think in my top 10 films, he's been in like 3 or 4 of them. Because he's in Barton Fink, he's in The Big Lebowski, a lot of Coen, he's in Fargo.
Fargo.
Damn.
Pulp Fiction, Reservoir Dogs.
He's in this too.
I mean, he was in Big Daddy, so, you know, maybe he has a couple.
Oh, and he's in Grown Ups. I forgot he's in Grown Ups.
Grown
Oh,
Ups.
God damn. Why do those movies have to exist?
Well, he's also in Grown Ups too. Oh, dear.
Yeah, true. Okay, back to production design.
Yes, production design.
Yeah. The production design is just incredible here. Honestly, I think that one that was the most impressive to me, Spectre was like the most impressive, I guess, but the most artistically sound to me is the I don't know if they're in China or in Vietnam. The theater, like the stage
totally.
with like the red lighting. I don't know. That was really cool to me.
I think it was Japan,
I think
honestly.
Japan. Yeah. I don't know where it was. There were flags. I think it was actually Korea.
Was it?
Maybe. Was North Korean flags.
That would
I'm
make
not
sense.
sure.
Yeah, that was a very cool
in the
set.
Korean War.
Also,
but that's a really cool set.
Yeah. Also, the witch's house, like, which we see the witch's house, but also the house that Helena Bonham Carter lives in as Jenny. It's a very cool house. Yeah. I mean, the sets are amazing in this film. Great production design. And
costumes are great.
Costumes, yes. The costumes are amazing in this film. Even just like the simple costumes, like the stuff Ewan McGregor wears, they're just so colorful and vibrant. He wears like very...
And Sandra, I don't know the actress who plays Sandra, his wife, the young Sandra.
Yeah.
Man, she's got some awesome costumes. And I mean, like, even Danny DeVito and the circus performers.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this is an easy 6 out of 6 for me. Easy 6 out of 6.
Easy 6 out of 6. Like, I really, the only other film that's kind of, I mean, there are a lot of great films that we've done. And this kind of gets a pass because it has big production budget too. So it's kind of like, I feel like it needed to step up in production design. And it did. It totally like, fits it matches the crazy expectations of the story and it brings it to life.
Yeah. Also, just like filling that university plaza with daffodils, like.
Yeah, like what?
Awesome!
What?
It's awesome.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
Like, what? So unnecessary, but they did it anyways.
And it's like such a beautiful scene.
He brought her daffodils, which is already like proving the attention to detail.
And then
that wasn't enough.
Field of daffodils. I love it.
Yeah.
Also, like, after he gets beat up and they're laying in the field, it's like been carved out as a heart around them. It's just those little details. It's very cool.
That's by far my favorite shot.
Yeah.
In the film.
Okay, location selection out of 6. Also very strong here.
Yeah, there's some really great locations. The river, honestly, is a really cool location.
Yeah. The Giant's Cave.
Yeah, that's cool also. I guess, like, the only thing is that they built so many sets that I almost found myself, like, I don't know. Like, I was just, like, impressed by all the sets, so then all the locations didn't seem as awesome. Because of how crazy the sets were.
Yeah, totally.
Because they really weren't in any that, like, grand, big locations.
Yeah.
For that much of this film.
I mean, they have the forest. They had that lake in the forest where he was at night.
Right.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah, with the leeches, yeah.
I mean, I guess Spectre was on a location.
I don't know if they were... Yeah, it is on a location, but the whole town has been built as a set. Also, they had to, like, redesign it to also be a ghost town.
Yeah.
Like,
that is very
so
cool.
Much work.
Oh, yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
They would have to... Yeah, that's actually really cool. Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, the locations are awesome within the film, but because the production design, it kind of overshadows it, and then you're, like, not as impressed by the locations, which is kind of like deceiving.
I don't know if that is like enough. I docked it a point. I gave it 5%. I don't know if that's fair because I feel like the location selection is really awesome and they weren't like bad locations, but I just feel like if you're gonna have insane production design and a huge budget, you gotta like have
Silence.
some locations that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I also give it a 5 out of 6. And Silence did it with half the budget.
Yeah, I mean, they also chose to do all their principal photography in Alabama, kind of around their sets.
Yeah.
Like, the whole film is shot in Alabama, which I feel like, you know, you got the budget for it.
It's a little lazy. It's a little lazy.
Find some crazier locations.
Yeah.
But yeah, 5%.
5 out of 6.
Let's take a quick break, and then we'll hop into the second half of the review. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, here we are. We're back, heading into cinematography out of 10. I mean, the cinematography is very creative in this film. We got some like really great camera movement.
Yeah.
And obviously, the production design definitely ups its game quite a bit. But we also have some great depth of field. We got some like
nice
great
bokeh.
green bokeh. And yeah, I think the biggest thing that's popping this up for me is the movement, the camera movement. There is a lot of really cool zoom ins, dolly shots, tracking shots.
Yeah.
A lot of like
totally
sideways
agree.
tracking. Yeah.
I think that there is a lot of great camera movement, and I really like that about it. Only real thing for me, I guess compared to the films that I've given higher percentages, I don't know. It just, at some points, it doesn't really necessarily do much to bring it. Like, there is a lot of great shots, but there's also a lot of fairly basic shots. I think especially just when it's not in the fantasy world. And it's nothing like I feel like they could have necessarily done better, but it's just not Silence, you know?
Right, yeah.
I think overall, though, the color work is also really strong in this film.
I think the lighting is actually really good in this film.
The lighting is really solid,
a lot of really
too.
great lighting.
My favorite shot scene is probably the Korean theater. I don't know. I really loved the red saturation type vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the daffodils. Honestly, yeah, there's some great cinematography. Like, the circus. There's a lot of great stuff in the circus.
Yeah.
Especially nighttime scenes in the circus because you get all the circus lights and you get that bokeh. I mean, him walking through the circus, seeing her for the first time. There's just, I don't know. There's a lot of creative shots in this film that I was like, they took time and effort to make these interesting.
Yeah.
And yeah, I get that his stuff, like the real life stuff, isn't as interesting, but I think that's okay because it's the contrast.
Yeah.
It's
totally,
meant to be contrasted.
Totally.
It is in Silence, but I was pretty impressed.
I don't know. I was thinking that it wasn't that great, but then I had already seen the daffodil shot, but man, that just has to be one of my favorite freaking shots in a long time, bro. Like, that is so good. Yellow's my favorite
with him
color.
in the blue suit. Yeah, blue suit, yellow, contrast.
It's just beautiful. It's just really beautiful.
It's got that triadic color.
Exactly.
Because
she's in blue also.
Roy from The Office is in red. They're in blue.
Roy
we got
before
the yellow.
He was Roy. And also, honestly,
oh, yes.
my favorite shot from that whole thing is when she walks up to the window and pulls aside the curtains, and then it's revealed, like, and then you just see him standing, and the whole outside of the window, all you see is daffodils, and it almost looks like the house has been transported into the middle of a field. Just an incredible shot. So yeah, I had to give it the 9%. I was gonna give it an 8%, but then I was just like, man, the daffodils, 9%.
Yeah, same. 9 out of 10. Yeah. Okay, let's move on. Editing out of 8. I mean, what? Like, okay, this is the thing. There's a lot of cross dissolves in this film.
There's a lot of cross dissolves.
So what's your take on that?
It's not my least favorite, I don't know. I almost feel like it gets a pass because it already, like, the thing that I really like with the editing is that they put like this, they kind of blew out the highlights on all the fantasy stuff, just giving it
Yeah.
a totally different look from all the stuff. Man, I'm trying to think. Another film did this. Atonement did this. Where the stuff before the war, all the highlights are blown out, so it almost gives it like a more vintage feel.
Right.
And I really
Yeah.
like that in this film to help distinguish. It really puts you into like, okay, this is fantasy. This is, they're kind of using that editing technique to make it feel less authentic because it's obviously
Yeah.
not really rooted in reality.
Totally.
And that kind of
Right.
makes up
Yep.
for some of the weird cross dissolves that I feel like were not creative at all.
Also, like, weird nitpicky thing, but when they do cross dissolves, they make them long, which
make 'em
kind
really
of fixes
long.
cross
Like,
dissolves. If you make a
so
cross dissolve long, it feels a bit more natural than doing a quick cross dissolve, which
Yeah.
some people do. Never do a quick cross dissolve because that just looks stupid. It
just-
looks like
just
an
hard
iMovie
cut.
transition.
Like literally just hard cut. It's
Yeah, either do a
way
hard
better.
cut, or if you're gonna do a cross dissolve, make it long. And they make them all long in Big Fish. Also,
Yeah.
they do other, like, the thing about it is, like, even though they do a lot of cross dissolves, they also do some pretty cool transitions too. So they kind of like
Yeah,
balance
honestly in
themselves
the
out.
beginning there's like a tracking shot that goes behind the wall when he's a kid, and then when it comes out, he's like an adult.
Yeah.
I like that kind of stuff.
Or like it like looks into the ocean of him as a adult, and then it comes up and he's young. Like they do stuff like that. And it's just
Yeah.
it's a well edited film. Also, like there's a lot of like
There's that cool transition where he's in the car and it's raining, and then the bubbles
Yeah.
come up and he's at the bottom of the river and
yeah,
there's a fish.
yes.
Yeah.
I
don't
I
know.
kind of love the CGI / animatronics in this film. They are
Yeah,
so
it-
dated.
Yeah.
They're so dated, but they're also so funny. Like the fish
The
or
fish
the
is so
spiders.
stupid looking, bro. Like
Dude,
honestly,
the jumping spiders.
a
Oh my
lot of the
God, it's
cross
hilarious.
dissolves, too, it almost feels
Mm-hmm.
like natural in the crazy fantasy world. Like it almost feels like
Yeah.
you're watching a fairy tale film from the 60s.
Yeah.
And it just kind of feels like it's in place. Like it just, when I'm watching it and I see a cross dissolve, I don't think like, what? That's like awkward.
Mhm.
It just feels
It
right.
feels a little bit more natural. Yeah.
But at the same
so-
time, I didn't think that there was anything
Yeah.
crazy about the editing.
Yeah, I agree. You don't like cross dissolves. I don't like slide transitions. I don't like slide transitions.
Yeah, I guess I'm
Um,
calling it cross dissolves, but I think technically a cross dissolve would more be overlaying two shots and fading between them, because this
Yeah.
uses like a curtain pulling up kind of thing, if that makes sense.
Well,
you know?
it does cross dissolves. It also does pulls, and I don't like pull transitions like the Star Wars style transitions. I don't
Yeah,
really like
exactly.
those. They work in Star Wars, but they don't
Star
work
Wars is in
anywhere
the
else. I
70s,
just don't
so-
like it. Yeah, I don't like those transitions, and I don't get why people use them because it just pulls me out of the film. Like, do a whip pan.
Makes
if
it
you're gonna
makes
do
it feel
that.
like a theater performance with like the curtains
Yeah.
coming up.
Like they could easily do a whip pan, and it would be such a better transition. You know,
Wes
it gives you
Anderson
the same
style.
thing.
Wes Anderson
Yeah.
style.
But not as like a whip pan to a different character, but a whip pan transition where you whip the camera and then you whip the camera into the next
Like
scene. and it's
Edgar Wright, like Edgar Wright style editing.
Yeah,
Edgar
Wright style.
Edgar Wright films are possibly some of my favorite edited films of all time.
Yeah.
Like
well,
Hot
I mean,
Fuzz, honestly, Hot Fuzz.
Scott Pilgrim versus the World is
Yeah,
literally like
exactly.
the most edited film ever. Like if we did that, it would be a 9 out of 8 editing.
And Baby Driver too has good editing.
Yeah, Baby Driver has some crazy editing too, especially the car scenes. Yeah, anyway, I give this a 6 out of 8. Nothing
Same.
super impressive, but it was also like, it was, there was some pretty good stuff. It was creative enough. So yeah,
Yep.
6 out of 8.
I
Let's
gave
move
it the
on to
6
acting.
Also, I think that the acting is slightly underwhelming in this film. I think Ewan McGregor does a great job.
Yeah.
But I don't know. There's nothing that special to me about any of the performances.
Yeah.
I think most of the characters benefit a lot from just like the screenplay, honestly. Like, in the ending, Billy Crudup and Albert Finney have great chemistry in the hospital scene.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that excuses their kind of, like, awkwardness earlier.
I like Albert Finney. I think he
Yeah.
gives a really
He's
authentic
good. He's
performance.
Good. But Billy Crudup...
It feels charismatic and authentic. Ewan McGregor's really good. Yeah, Billy Crudup, I give him a pass. I don't think his acting is bad. I think it's more how his character is written, but it's
Yeah.
also like not that amazing. Okay, here's the thing. Maybe this is a personal thing, but I don't like what's her name? Marion Cotillard. She plays Josephine.
Yeah.
And I've never liked her as an actress. She's in a lot of movies. Inception, Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah.
She's in a lot of Nolan films. I don't know. There's something about her
She's
that
in
I
Midnight
never...
in Paris, too.
Yeah, Midnight in Paris. I'm very underwhelmed by her performances always. And this film, I don't know. It's not that she does a bad job. There's something about her that just kind of turns me off a little bit. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
That might be a personal thing. But also, there's some really great performances in this film too. Ewan McGregor, Albert Finney. I really like Jessica Lange. I just like Jessica Lange in general, but I think she gives a good performance. Helena Bonham Carter is awesome.
Awesome as always in Burton movies.
Yeah, and she plays the witch as well as Jenny, older Jenny. And
well, technically the witch is Jenny, but just out of order. It's kind of warped.
It is warped. It's how he perceives time or something about
I don't even know.
Sees women.
I don't even know.
It was kind of cool.
I was too
thinking about it
to think about it too much. I was
thinking
okay.
about it. I understood it this time better than I usually do. It's like how he sees it is there is Sandra and then every other woman. So in his mind, they
just kind of
contrast,
blend
they overlap, blend together. Yeah. Also, we got like Danny DeVito coming in, giving a pretty decent performance.
Gives a good performance.
He gives a good performance.
For what his character is, he nails it.
He isn't
he's
really
the
a
funniest
joke
part
in
of
this
this
film.
movie. Him and Steve Buscemi are the only times I laughed.
I love Steve Buscemi. Steve Buscemi gives a fantastic performance.
Oh yeah.
He isn't in a lot of the film. But he's good. I like the bank robbing scene.
He looks slightly confused, slightly scared, but slightly scary also.
I love his poetry reading at Spectre.
That was definitely the funniest part.
Yeah, robbing the bank. Yeah,
it's so weird too. Such a random character. Yeah, I think that overall
the biggest
they're somewhat cringe, but it's overall solid.
Also, the kids kind of suck. That's like the biggest thing.
Child actors are awful.
These ones, were not
like
great,
especially Miley Cyrus. Yeah, she was bad.
Painful. There's a reason why she got cast in Disney after this.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the acting was like, to me, nothing stands out as awful. I do think there's some characters that could have been written better, like Billy Crudup. I don't blame his acting. I blame it more on how the character was written. And I think he kind of saves himself in the last like 30 minutes because he gives actually a really good performance when his character needs to show emotion. So I don't think that's actually on his acting. I think that's more the writing. So yeah, I gave it an 8 out of 10 for acting.
Yeah, same here. I also gave it an 8 out of 10. Yeah, like Lucas said, nothing bad, but I don't know. Mm-hmm. Nothing really amazing here. Yeah. Entertainment value out of 10%.
Entertainment value.
Like, this is tricky for me because I don't know. It was entertaining in the second act, but also there were parts of it that I was just kind of not as interested in, I guess. Like, there were some scenes that once I had finished watching the film and I knew what all the different fantasy elements did and they all combined and I kind of knew their purpose, there were some scenes that I just really didn't get why they had to be in the film. Like him swimming to save the woman from the snake. I just don't really understand that. Or his car drowning in the thunderstorm. Maybe this is just me being overloaded with way too much information from this film. But I don't know. I think the ending really got my attention again and was really great payoff. But it wasn't the most entertaining film for a first watch. I think it was a very solid film. It's not that long. I would definitely rewatch it. But nothing too special. It almost just feels like it should be more entertaining because of how much crazy stuff is happening.
I find this film really entertaining. Yeah, I don't know. Like, all that crazy stuff is happening, and I like it. Even though maybe it doesn't make sense for the story, I'm into it. I find it entertaining.
It's just like stuff when he's walking down the scary path, like before he gets to Spectre. It just feels like time is passing, and I don't know. It doesn't feel like it's necessarily doing anything like him walking through the spiders. Like you've already proven,
I think that's entertaining.
You've already proven that he's the. I don't know. It was still entertaining, but for me it just feels like it should be more entertaining for a movie about crazy stories. It feels like it should be the most entertaining thing I've ever seen.
Fair. I mean, I find this film really entertaining. I've seen this film many times as a kid. And also the biggest thing for me is I watched this film as a kid, and now watching it, I don't know, like 4 years since I've watched it last, and it still holds up to me. Like, I still really enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. I find this film really entertaining. I like it. I've seen it many times. It's got rewatchability. Also some nostalgia, but yeah. I don't know.
I feel like this film could definitely grow on me after a second watch. Because I was just kind of overwhelmed for most of it. But I gave it an 8% out of 10. Could definitely grow on me. 8% for now, though. Let's move on to overall technical achievement out of 15%.
Out of 15.
Yeah, I think that cinematography is pretty great. The editing is very solid also. But I feel like a lot of this film, like, it's it's nothing too crazy technically. It's like the production design that's really stands out to me as insane. So I feel like it's just not quite like it's very close to like the 14 range. But just looking at the other films that are in there, just feel like it isn't necessarily stand out for its technical aspects enough to be on the same level, but still very, very solid.
Yeah, it's very solid. I mean, production design, soundtrack, cinematography, it's up there. Doesn't quite pass that barrier, though. I agree.
For sure.
It's a 13 out of 15. It's a 13 out of 15.
Yeah,
makes sense.
It's a 13. Yeah. So that concludes our review of Big Fish. We'll tally up our final scores, take a quick break.
Yep.
And spin the wheel for next week.
Spin the wheel for next week. Let's do it. Okay, we're back. We tallied up our scores. We got our final percentages. So, let's do it. Ben, what did you give Big Fish?
Overall, first time watching Big Fish, my new favorite Tim Burton film, I gave it overall an 84%.
84%.
Yeah, very solid. Just not quite in the threshold of like my top sters or some of the other stuff we've watched so far, but I'm really glad that we got to watch it. I really wanted to watch it for a long time, and I wasn't disappointed. Yeah,
I mean, it's a fun film. I gave it an 85%, so we're very close. 85%.
And that fits really nicely, 84.5%, just edging out The Life Aquatic and sliding in behind The Place Beyond the Pines. There's no way I like this film more than The Life Aquatic, but I respect it. I respect its place. Honestly, I think I like The Place Beyond the Pines more than this, maybe.
I 100% like the.
I just like. Dude, honestly,
I don't know
why
you ripped on The Place Beyond the Pines way more than it deserved.
It's because of the beginning, and because the second act is really boring, or was the first time I watched it. Like, I did not care about Bradley Cooper at all.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think I gave the beginning a 2% or something.
Yeah, that's way too hard, dude. I like the beginning.
That was early on in the days where I was very extreme with the ratings.
Yeah,
I was
that's
way
true.
too nice on Parasite. Way
And
too
then
nice
you like
on
tried
Brazil.
to correct yourself.
Averages out to our 13th highest film, though.
Our
I think it's
13th.
a must-watch. I think everybody should watch this.
Yeah, it's like a classic. It just feels like a
Mhm.
classic. It's one of those. I mean, it's a great Tim Burton film, and if you like Tim Burton, this is a must watch. I mean, if you like
Yep,
Tim
for
Burton,
sure.
I'm assuming you've seen it already. But yeah,
I mean, this is probably his most mainstream film. Not in terms of popularity, but in terms of normality.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
In terms of being widely consumable.
Yeah, that
Which
makes
could
sense.
either be that could be a make or break though. Like if you like Tim Burton for his style,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
it could be lost, but I don't know. This is probably my favorite.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I pulled up the QuickTime player. I'm gonna screen record,
Yes, sir.
and let's see what we get next week. We have
Our
such a
24th
diverse.
film.
We have had so many diverse films.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm hoping we
I'm
get
excited.
Have we done a foreign film yet?
Parasite. Parasite.
Right. Oh yeah.
The Farewell wasn't really
Yeah.
a foreign film, but it was mostly.
I don't even think we really have any other than Blade of the Immortal, which I will defend to my grave as being awesome.
I guess Trainspotting's kind of a foreign film. It's British.
Kinda.
We've
You
had a lot of
barely
British
understand
films.
what they're saying half the time in Trainspotting.
We've had a lot
honestly.
of British films. Okay, well, I'm screen recording, pulling up the wheel. Let's turn up the volume, or else it didn't happen. And let's spin in 3, 2, 1. Here we go. What we landed on?
Ooh.
Oh, ooh. Oh God, oh no. Oh, I don't think I'm emotionally prepared to watch this.
Uh oh.
What do you think we landed on, Ben?
Emotionally prepared. Is it Manchester by the Sea? Is that?
Yeah, we
on the-
landed on Manchester by the Sea. Oh,
Did we actually?
Yeah.
Oh God. Oh no.
Okay. Manchester by the
Okay.
Sea. This was a requested film, I am pretty sure.
Yeah, I
So,
didn't put it on. at
Whoever
first.
requested Manchester by the Sea,
Do you enjoy watching me cry?
yeah, exactly. This is like without a doubt the most depressing film I've ever seen. I think it's the most depressing film ever made. I think this film traumatized me when I first watched it, honestly. I watched it when it first came out, so I was really young. It was rated PG apparently on Apple TV. I remember that. I was like, "Oh, it's rated PG. Let's watch this." This movie is not PG. It is so dark, so depressing. Literally everything bad that could happen to a guy happens to Casey Affleck. Yeah.
Jeez, it's rated R now.
Yeah. No, I think they just screwed up on Apple TV. Yeah, well, honestly, you know what? I'm down to watch this though. I'm down to watch a sad movie. I'm down to rewatch this. Haven't seen it in like
I haven't seen
4
it
or
in
5 years.
2 years, I think.
Yeah, I watched this when it first came out.
a year. Yeah, I got the plot summary here.
Yep.
After his brother's death, Lee Chandler is named guardian to his 16-year-old nephew Patrick. Damn, already so many sad memories. This forces him to return to his hometown and confront his past. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Lucas Hedges' breakout role, I love him. He got nominated
Michelle
for the Oscar.
Williams is
Michelle
phenomenal.
Williams, Casey Affleck won the Oscar. It's one of the greatest performances.
Boy Erased. Still haven't seen
Boy
Boy
Erased.
Erased.
Bro,
with
that's a
Lucas
sad movie
Hedges.
too.
Yeah.
Lucas Hedges, I really look up to him as a young actor because he just like chooses all of the indie films, you know?
Yeah.
He, like, if you look at his filmography, it's crazy. Lady Bird, mid-90s, Manchester by the Sea, Boy Erased, Honey Boy, 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, Grand Budapest Hotel, Moonrise Kingdom. I mean, this guy has a crazy filmography. Like, that's insane. He's only 24.
Yeah. I'm excited to watch this. Yeah, see you guys next week. We'll watch Manchester by the Sea. Get out our tissues.
Have tissues ready for if
Yeah.
you guys are going to watch this. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening to Slightly Qualified Film Students.
Make sure to tune in next week for a new film discussion and review.
Our theme song is Slightly Sexy by Thompson Springs.
Make sure to subscribe and leave us a like.
Send us feedback and comments as well as your thoughts on the film.
Follow us on Instagram and Twitter at S_Q_F_S.
If you would like to send us a question or a comment for next week's episode, you can email us at sqfilmstudents@gmail.com.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you all next week.
Bye.